Our God is not like us. Our God created us, and we are like our God, but our God is not restricted by the same things that we are restricted by. This story of the man with two sons is one of my favorite stories in the Scripture. From the Gospel of Luke, the gospel of prayer, inclusivity, and healing. What's so great about this parable? God is not like us. With the first son, he comes and he says, I want what's mine. Give it to me. In that society, a father would have never, ever given this to his son. And a son would have never asked for it. This was like saying to your parents, I wish you were dead. Die, so I can have what belongs to me. This would have never happened. But the gospel is suggesting that what if it did happen? Second offense of the younger son. This is his whole inheritance. And it says he spent every bit of it. Not just some of it, every bit of it. And did he spend it responsibly? No, he squandered it. His whole inheritance. What if his family needed help? That would have never, ever happened. Strike two. And he spends it as a good Jew in not a Jewish town, but in a Gentile town. Strike three. And after he spends everything and he's in dire need, he ends up doing what? Becoming a friend of pigs. And pigs is not a derogatory term, it's pigs. And mud. And he's so poor, the gospel says, that he has to eat the pig food. And no one around him will help him. Buddy, you dug your grave, sit in it. But thanks be to God, he came to his senses. And I want to stay here just for a second. Coming to his senses does not mean he had a conversion experience. He was hungry. He was desperate. And so he says, at least in my Father's house, I will have a roof over my head and food to eat. I'll be called a slave, but at least I will be taken care of. So his whole motivation for return is not, I'm sorry. It's, I'm hungry. So he rehearses his speech, and he's heading home, and his father had every reason to ignore him, to banish him, and to not forgive him. Every reason. And it was even supported by the law. Every reason. But our God is not like us. Because what does the gospel say? He sees him from afar off, which implies what? He was looking for him. People leave our lives sometimes. Do we miss them? Do we hope they're going to come home? Of course we do. But he was looking for him. And when he sees him, his first thought is not rage or revenge. The gospel says he was moved with compassion from his very guts. All he wanted was to be close to his son, to love his son. And it says he ran. Now, why would he run? He was not the offender. He ran, and all he wanted to do was to remove the boundary, the source of non-healing, the source of separation. That's all he wanted to do. And his son sees him running down the street, and he's probably scared to death. He's probably never seen his father run. He's scared to death. Is my father going to take me out? And so he gives his speech. And before he can get one or two words out of his mouth, What does his father say? Welcome home. Here's a robe, here's a ring, and here's shoes. Symbols of reinstatement, freedom. You are back in the family, and we're happy to have you. And not only that, we're going to have a big party. And the fatted calf, scholars tell us, was like using the fine china that you never, ever, ever, ever use. This son is overwhelmed because his father creates what? An environment of not hatred, mercy. Right? Mercy. And the celebration begins. But our gospel isn't just about the prodigal son, it's about the man with two sons. What about that other son? Very obedient, never spent any money, just waiting for what belonged to him responsibly. And when he hears the sound of that music and he finds out the reason why, he is PO'd. He is. I've been responsible, I'm working hard, and I need what's coming for me. I didn't ask you, but I sure was expecting it. And he's ticked off. And what does his father do? His father engages his rage, his disappointment, and his entitlement. Just like with the other son. He loves him. And helps his son to realize that we have to rejoice. Because sometimes we all need to come home. We all need to come home. And sometimes it's hard to come home, isn't it? There's stuff that keeps us out of that house, metaphorically or materially. But all our God is interested in is removing those barriers. And friends, that's what reconciliation and healing is all about. Healing is about, hopefully, removing physical things that impact us, but healing is also about something more disturbing. When we are all twisted up spiritually, we can't assess what is good. And the things that ail us become bigger and trap us in the darkness. This reading is all about how God's desire for us always is freedom. And to make that journey to freedom and to welcome us back.